Hi there, welcome to my office. I've got some work going on in my house right now, so I thought I would come from my office. Hope everyone's doing well. Oh, I see all those boxes over there. Let me move. Well, you don't care about boxes, do you? Okay. Oh, well. How's everyone doing? I just ran, not literally, but jumped in my car and got here. I was speaking at a little women's group at the park. It's a walking group that's affiliated with my church, and my friend asked me if I'd come and share with the ladies there for a few minutes. So I did that, jumped in the car, and got here. And here we are. So happy Friday, everybody. We got back in town Wednesday night from California. We had a great time there, getting to preach the word, go to Visalia where daddy passed away. If you watched any of my social media, I posted all that. So it was a emotional time, but I got through it, did it, and then preached his sermons those 2 nights. So, anyways, we're back, and I'm looking forward to sharing this one with you. This is number 14. We're already on number 14. And this one is dated 3324, North Miami, Florida. It's a short one. It's not very long. It's just some notes that he wrote down, but the title of it is The Advantage of Being Seed Minded Instead of Need Minded. So we'll get started. I'm just going to read what it says. It's kind of hard to read it with that. Okay. He says, many years ago, I was building a medical center in the nation of Kenya, and I was endeavoring to pay cash as we built it. We had almost completed it, and I thought I was ready to go over to dedicate it. And then my director called me and said, Brother Jerry, we need several more thousands of dollars before you can come for the dedication. The government is requiring some additional things to be done. I think the amount was $30,000. This is back in 1987. The problem was that I didn't have any more money in my missions account to use for that project. I had other funds, but they had been designated for other projects and I couldn't use them. So I told my director, well, God has supplied what we needed up to now, and I believe He will supply the balance that we need. After my conversation with him, I had to fly to Tulsa to speak in a meeting with Brother Oral Roberts. So I went out to the airport, got in our ministry aircraft, and began the flight. On the way, I said, Lord, I need to talk to you about this urgent need in Kenya. And I told him how much extra I needed. He said, when you get to Tulsa and you go to the podium, and then he told me about 3 needs in the lives of other preachers who would be there, and then to tell what they were. So every time I talked to God about a need, he was talking to me about a seed. He said to me, you are need minded and I'm seed minded. When you are in need, always sow a seed. That's the way I have intended for man to have his life sustained from the very beginning. It starts in Genesis 1:29 when it says, and God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. In the literal Hebrew, the word herb bearing seed is seeding seed. Then he has here example my grandfather's bins in the barn. The words to you, it shall be for meat, is for you, it shall be for provision. That word meat, provision. Seed is for provision. It was then and it is now God's way of providing for every need that we may have while we are on the earth. It has never changed. And Genesis 8:22 says, "While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest shall not cease." I did what God told me to do. I sowed seed, and after the service, I flew back home. The following Monday, KCM began their annual Southwest Believers Convention in Fort Worth. And at the end of the first evening, several of us were in the elevator going to our rooms, and a little woman got in and didn't say a word to any of us. However, when the door opened to her floor, she turned to me and said, "Brother Jerry, God told me this would happen." And then she handed me a check and walked out. When I looked at the check, it was exactly what I needed to complete that project in Kenya. That was a valuable lesson to me. That's the day I chose to become seed minded instead of need minded. No matter what your need might be, large or small, sowing seeds is how God will meet that need. I was born on a farm in Vicksburg, Mississippi. My grandfather bought that farm in 1927. It's where my dad was raised, and once again, it's where I was born in 1946. Every year when I would go with my grandfather to the field to plant, he would say to me, "Son, we're going to have a good harvest this year." I would say, "Grandpa, how do you know that?" And he would always respond by saying, "Because I'm a tither and God will honor my tithing." He was not only a sower of seed in the ground, but he was also a sower of his money. And we always had good crops. I wasn't born then, but he told me that even in the 1929 Depression, he sowed what little money he had in tithes, and God always took care of him. He learned that when you have a seed, then sow a seed. Paul tells us in Galatians 6:7, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." Another translation says, "A man's harvest in life depends entirely on what he sows." And then he goes on to tell us in verse 9, "And let us not be weary in well doing, for it is due season we shall reap if we faint not." The Message translation says, "At the right time, we will harvest a good crop if," that little word if, "we don't give up or quit." That's where the problem lies with most Christians. They give up too soon. Some hold on to the lie of the devil that says you can't afford to sow, but the truth is you can't afford not to sow. Let's look at some examples in the Bible where people sow despite their situations. And you can write these down and go look at them and read these stories and illustrations of sowing for yourself. But it's 1 Kings 17, 1 through 16, and then Genesis 26, 1 through 6, and also verses 12 through 14. 1 Kings 17, 1 through 16, and then Genesis 26, 1 through 6, 12 through 14. Go read those. In your time of need, always think, where can I sow seed? I learned this many years ago and will apply it to this very day. If what I have doesn't meet my needs, then I make it my seed. It's up to you. You can remain need minded or you can remain seed minded. Put that in the comments. I'm seed minded. I hope you got something from that. It was short and sweet, but it was powerful. So if you'd like a copy of these notes, you can go to jerryann.org, and with your love gift of any amount, I'll send you a copy of these. All right, guys, that was number 14, the advantage of being seed-minded instead of need-minded. Rhema word for you today. I hope it blessed you. Let me see what you're saying. Hi, everybody. Hi. Good to see all of you. Thanks for tuning in with me, and I will see you again next Friday. All right. Bye-bye. I thought I ended it.